It is by the power of breath that the animals search for their food. Through breath, they perceive what they must eat and what they must not eat. Through breath, the carnivorous animals search for their prey. It is through breath that certain animals receive warning of dangers. And again, it is through the breath that some animals, when ill, find their remedy. If the lower creation can do so much by the power of breath, how much more can we do if we only know the right way of the development of breath? It is through the breath that the birds receive warnings of the changes of the weather, and accordingly they migrate in flocks from one place to another. Through the breath, the herds of deer perceive approaching storms or changes of weather or the approach of a lion or tiger. One who is more capable of perceiving by breath still deeper things, warnings, and calls from the earth and from heaven. Which places are meant for one to dwell in or to settle in, of discriminating between friend and foe, and discerning their pleasure and displeasure. Owing to one's intense interest in the superficial things of life, one cannot fully benefit by the power of breath. Yogis and Sufis, therefore, and all students of the inner cult believe that breath is the means of receiving all intuitive knowledge from every direction of life. Absorbed in 1,000 things of daily life, one gives very little thought to breath. Therefore, one keeps one's heart closed to all the revelation that can be received by the help of breath. One, as a rule, is never conscious of the breath, of its rhythm, of its development, except at the time when one is so tired that one is breathless, or when one is so excited that one feels choked up, or when something keeps the breath from flowing. For a Sufi, it is desirable to be conscious of every breath. In the schools of the Sufis in the East, the members of a certain association take up as their duty to remind the whole assembly of the same. So one after another in turn takes up the duty. They call aloud, Hosh dar dam, meaning keep conscious of the breath, and Nazar bar qadam. This sentence is added when the Sufis are walking, which means look down and see whose feet are these that are walking. Some people saw Sheikh Shibli, Rahmatullah alayhi, sitting completely still with closed eyes. And they wondered very much what he was doing. And afterward, when he got up, they came to him and said, what is this that you do? And he said, this is muraqabah, this is concentration. And they said, where did you learn it? He said, I learned it from a cat. He said, I saw a cat in front of a mouse hole, and not a single hair on the cat's body moved. And I thought, if she can do it, why can't I? You'll find that a number of the techniques taught in the Sufi path were learned from animals. And this is one example. So from the breath of the cat, Shibli learned this stillness, this quietude, this concentration. And Murshid explains in this Gatha how the animals are masters of breath, and they use the breath to realize their objects. We always say that animals have instincts. Their instinct means their use of the breath. By their breath, they know which direction to migrate. They know where to find food. Breath is the coming in and going out of air from the body, yes, but it's much more than that. It's the whole movement of the life field, expanding and contracting, drawing in all of the vibrations of the surrounding space. And when one is tuned to this, one has access to tremendous intuition and hidden knowledge. That's what Murshid is speaking about here. How do we cultivate this awareness? Murshid reminds us here by noticing the breath not only when the breath is out of rhythm, when one is exhausted and panting, short of breath, or the breath is shallow and the heart is beating fast. Ordinarily, one only notices the breath when it's gone wrong, if then. But if we want to cultivate the power of the breath, we have to learn to tune into the breath day by day, moment by moment. Keep coming back to it. And that's the meaning of the Sufi maxim, Hosh Dardam. Hosh is consciousness, Dardam, in the breath, consciousness of the breath. Spirit rides the wind. Ruh rakib ala-hari. The spirit rides the wind. Let your mind ride the breath. Let your spirit ride your mind, and be present to each breath as it comes and goes. This is what it means to live in each moment fully awake. In fact, the word dam means both breath and moment. To observe a breath is to observe a moment. Physiologically, we mark the passing of time in the body by the cycle of breaths. And that's why when the breath slows down, greater spaciousness comes, a kind of longevity comes. The breath in us is the marker of time. And if one is completely conscious of the breath, the pendulum of time points up to the timeless. So that's why a Sufi is called Ibn al-Waqt, or Bint al-Waqt, son of the moment, or daughter of the moment. One is reborn each moment by living in the presence of this breath. In that way, one's breath becomes fine and gentle and deep. And then when one begins to fall out of rhythm, one notices it because one has become so well acquainted with the natural breath, that any deviation is like a flashing warning signal. So then you need not fall into distraction and venture into those kinds of words or actions that come from the confused breath. You already know the breath is verging in that direction. Now bring it back. So this would be a good motto for all of us to keep up. Hoshtardam, and the other, Nazar bar Qadam. That is to say, watch your step. Feel your feet on the ground, especially when you're walking, but even when sitting. Feel the earth under you. Feel the anchoring of the ground. Stand where you stand. Occupy this place. And when you walk, know where you're going.